Eric Jorgensen, thank you so much for coming on the Inner Edison Podcast. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, my pleasure. And it's challenging to get you on. You're a busy man. I think and please don't think that's not a nick or anything. That's just you are a busy person. We had to reschedule, and I understand you've done a lot, and we'll get into that with the Scribe Media and everything else. But I kind of want to get to your background. Your background is it a writer?
Yeah, I've been reading and writing a long time, I guess. But also, working in companies as an operator as well.
So, how long? Let's go back a little bit because not everybody's going to know who you are. I know you because you took over Scribe Media and everything it's had from that. Just because I wrote my first book through Scribe Media, and I say first because I try to do it on my own. I have three more. I don't know how well they're going to do, but let's just see how that works. And I think it was a great process for me to understanding that whole process about how to become an author and how to do certain things that I would have never done if it wouldn't have been for the Scribe Media back when I started. So prior to Scribe Media, what's your story?
I grew up in a small business house in Michigan, and just outside Detroit. My grandfather started a business. My dad spent most of his career running that, so it's kind of normal for us to grow up talking about that. Went to school in Michigan for economics and business, and then actually left kind of mid college to move to San Francisco and join the tech startup world. So spent quite a while in the venture backed startup world, and then kind of outside of work started reading and tweeting and blogging, and that kind of part of my life really turned into writing this first book about Naval, which took a couple of years to write, and I published that in 2020, about the same time that we sold the startup. So I spent a couple of years just kind of sitting there with an empty calendar, working on what I wanted to work on, which was investing in startups and writing other books and podcasting. And then this whole crazy thing with Scribe happened. So I'm kind of back in the operator role. But to your point, I've got a nasty habit of never getting rid of jobs, just adding them, which sounds like you do too.
Yeah, it's always add more. Everybody's like, why do you do so much? It's like, well, to get really good at something, you have to spend about 10,000 hours at it. And people
Yeah.
ask me, why do you do so many lives? Why do you do so many podcasts? It's like, how else do you get better at it? I got on radio in 2018 as a talk radio show host for real estate and finance because that's my background, which is mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great way to get the word out, to be an
Yep.
authority in the industry. And so is a book. But I want to go back a little bit. So you were in San Francisco, which is about an hour or something from me.
Mm-hmm.
So what startup did you sell? Let's talk about your entrepreneurship a little bit more, and then we'll get into the whole Scribe, because I want people to understand that a lot of us are serial entrepreneurs. We do certain things, we build certain companies, and then we have the opportunity to do what we love. So,
Mm-hmm.
or think we're going to love. What I mean is we have the money to be able to go do the next step. I have a friend of mine who sold out, and now he's able to do so many different things that he wants to help so many other people do what he just did.
Yeah, it wasn't a crazy exit itself, but coming out of school, I really had this feeling like I just wanted to be among the very best people that I could. I think there's truth to you can only conceive of the level of excellence you've seen. And so I just wanted to be in the city or the company with the smartest people working the hardest, trying to make the most of themselves. And at least at that time, it was pretty obvious that was San Francisco, and that was the shot I had. So moved there, and the company was called Zarly. Before Uber, before Instacart, we were kind of the first mobile real-time marketplace. And then that sort of, as that evolved, these verticals got picked off by these other companies. But it was a super interesting time to be there. And, the cohort of people that I worked with there have all really gone out to do incredible things. It was a super, super cool kind of first job experience.
And what was so that was the first job. What'd you do after that?
I had a whole handful of jobs there, but I was at that company for 10 years or so. So I did some sales, I did some product management, I did some operations. It was very much a throw something at Eric, he'll figure it out kind of generalist, which is a small startup. It's a wide range of stuff.
Did you find out what you're good at?
I gained some skills. I refined some things, and I found out where I'm definitely not going, where my progress is slow. So yeah.
No, because they say, you, as an entrepreneur, when you're in certain companies and startups differently, any company you start, you're jack of all trades in the beginning until you can, but you should only do what you're best at.
Yep.
And the question, and that's why I was asking, did you find that out what that was? What is that?
I think it's closing the loop between customers and product. I think there's a lot of different types of like CEO, but like my type, I think is quite good at hearing what customers need, being sure that the product team or the service team is like dialed in and focusing on those priorities, and then representing sort of the vision and the product and the mission of the company outside of the company as well. So I think that's the like archetype that I fit into.
And how do, for most people who, that's a huge part, because that's,
Yeah.
my background sales, and we
Mhm.
say, well, marketing has no idea what we do, and marketing says if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be here, and we say sales says, well, if we don't sell it, you don't have a job. I'm just so I mean, it's back and forth between sales and marketing, but it is
Yeah.
important that the customer understands what that is, or your perfect client, your avatar, all that stuff. So can we just go a little bit deeper on this a little bit?
Yeah, which deeper on
On
the
what you're good at, that part that you figured out, and how can someone else figure that part out?
yeah. Oh, I think the role that I was sort of found myself in eventually was like the kind of almost product manager role, but it comes through a lot of research with customers, some prospective customers, some existing customers, feeding that into product, but also hearing in that exercise, you hear how people describe the pain that you're solving and what the product is, and then you can feed that back into sales and marketing and product and be sure that those pieces are really all aligned. And I think that the talent that I have is just like being very 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 careful about listening to what people are saying, not just explicitly they're saying, but implicitly what they're saying, and digging for the full truth of what problems we are solving for them, and helping the rest of my team sort of understand that and work through that and get all of the things lined up to be serving those problems with the very extreme attention to detail.
So that's why you like Brian Galkey saying so well.
Yes. Yeah, and I think Tucker Max, who I know you've had on the show,
Yeah.
who's the founder of Scribe, I think he's exceptional at that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's what on my side is, the why. You ask them 3 times why they're doing something, they finally get to the reason they're really doing it, and that's how
Yeah,
you find out how you're going to help them. I think that's so important, especially if
yeah,
you're going to run a company. If you're in it, how are you going to connect with your customers, and how are you going to get to them what they need? And if you don't understand that, if you don't have that down, you're not going to be successful, or as a success you could have.
yeah. Yeah, and to me, a big unlock came from the kind of the jobs to be done framework. I'm not sure if you would have used that at any point in the sales and marketing stuff that you've done, but it's really it's like sort of a project management discipline, of just like asking a very very detailed, like the full story of a customer's journey through awareness, through understanding the decision that they made, the need that was fulfilled, and like understanding the narrative arc of a customer's life and what need actually arose and how well that was served. And, those are long, deep conversations. It's very different than kind of a survey driven
Right.
kind of discipline, but I found that to be incredibly enlightening. And it just shows you how many decisions are emotional decisions that people make that are then eventually sort of rationalized, and understanding that process.
That's pretty much every decision.
Yeah.
I'm just being people
Yeah.
make every decision emotionally, and then they try to justify it later. That's that whole buyer's remorse. I'm in the mortgage industry. I create one of the largest debts in their life. And if I don't have that professional responsibility to help them manage that debt and go through everything and understand their journey and understand every part that could go wrong in that journey, I think I was doing this back, I'm old, early 90s. And in the whole mortgage industry, I'd make sure they went down a certain path all the way to where we wanted them to go, the way you should have done it. And I think it's easier today because we've heard this a lot, and people talk about the story and the hero's journey and all the different things. How do you get that person to where you want them to be? It's very important, and make sure that they have the right information they need to make those decisions.
Yeah, well, in mortgage in particular, it's just so important. I mean, your whole life can hinge on that one decision, and there's very few of those decisions, really. Financially, it's just a massive one. I recently went through this experience for the first time, and I was very, very surprised that I wasn't surprised because I'm slightly pessimistic about these sort of things, but like nobody puts an amortization table in front of you and explains it until after you've started signing, when they think the ship has already sailed. And if you don't have the wherewithal to kind of do that math and understand, the full where it all is going before you make the commitment, emotionally and rationally, let alone legally, like, that you can go down a really tough path there. It's a lot of responsibility.
And that's why I wrote my book,
Yeah.
The Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth Through Home Ownership, because I found most of us, I had a process that most people didn't follow, and I want to make sure that clients understood everything that could potentially go wrong through the process. And handing them a book and making it so easy to read, that was the most important thing. Because I was like, I could write Moby Dick and nobody would read anything about the mortgage industry or what they're going to do, because it's too much. I don't want a pamphlet, because then they don't think it's valuable enough. It has to be right in the middle, perfect, and it has to be easy to read, and where you can get it done within the 3 to 4 hours, because otherwise people won't do it.
Yeah.
And I hand it out to everybody, and I tell everybody, give out my book. I don't care if they come through me or not. It's not about that. It's about the education.
Yeah. What is that? What has that book done for you? What is that practice of handing out that book for different people done for you?
Well, how do I put this? So I became the authority in my industry by doing a few different things. First thing was I was in a documentary. Well, first thing, I was on radio, and they think you're on radio, you got to know what you're talking about. It's just an automatic thing. Now, a lot of people ask, well, do people listen to radio? Because that's the first thing I said when they offered me the radio show. And I'm like, do people still listen? And they're like, it's talk radio. It's AM 1360 AM. Everybody, it's the last free press. Everybody listens to that stuff. And it's amazing. 51 to 71,000 people listen to our radio show each week.
Wow.
And from that, the next thing was like, what to do? Well, I got introduced to do a documentary and about real estate and finance. And I was the only mortgage person in. So that helped. And then I wrote my book, and then they're like, okay, well, this guy really needs to know, he knows what is happening, but be careful, because now people think I'm too big, and they think, okay, he doesn't want to work with me because he's too busy. He's doing all these things. And it's like, they don't understand that is how we market ourselves nowadays. That is how we get to you and give you the education so you can make the right decisions. That doesn't mean that we can't work with you. We want to work with you. And I saw this post from a real estate agent on Instagram, how she was saying that people aren't coming to her anymore. She wants to let them know that, hey, a $500,000 house, I still want to do that and below. Just because I get $1 million offer, listings and other stuff, doesn't mean I don't want everything, because I want everything. I want to help everybody. Yeah. And that's so just be careful that sometimes, I think just writing a book isn't it, but when you do a lot of stuff, and then they know you're the authority in the industry, that sometimes people are, I had people go, oh, he's a radio show host guy. It's like, who cares? And it's like, we're being asked to syndicate now. And it's like, ooh, what does that mean? That means I'm on a couple of stations, and sometimes it costs and sometimes it doesn't cost. It doesn't, but it sounds big to people. And I don't mean, this is not trying to come across wrong. It's just, you have to understand everything that we do is to get that information out there to you so that we can better serve you. So what has that book done for me? A lot. I'm an author. It's one more thing that's added to me. Plus I got the knowledge out that I wanted to get out to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people sometimes hesitate to share all they know because they're afraid that then people won't need their service or hire them. And I think like Tucker led the way on this too. He's like, no, share absolutely everything that you know. Otherwise it'll be a half-assed display of your true expertise and your true knowledge. And, you get to help people, even if you never speak with them, just by putting out the very best of yourself in this book. And that's a beautiful thing. But, we were talking before we started recording about like a book is a business card. And I think that's like a thing people trying to sell books like to say, because they think everybody needs a business card and they think everybody should write a book. And I think that's totally wrong. I think a book is like a PhD. Like a book is a great book, crucially, is a unique identifier of your expertise and your credibility, because not everybody has the experience, the sauce, the talent, the tenacity, the self-belief to write a book. A lot more people should write them than have written them. And like, that's part of Scribe's mission, but I don't think everybody on earth in this particular moment in their life is necessarily like ready to write a book and should be handing one out just like it's a business card. It's an important thing to do when you're ready and when you can produce a truly great book that helps people.
And I think that's the difference. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is when I say it's a bit, because you asked me and I said it's like a business card today, because you see so many people go, write a book, write a book. And then you see these books where they co-author with somebody. I'm like, that would a waste. And when it's not, I know who the person is that's co-authoring with them, that co-authors with everybody, so that they have their name in all these different books and everything else. Write your own book. Don't write a chapter in somebody else's book. If you're going to write a book, write a full book and be proud of it, whatever that knowledge is. I mean, I'm in the process. My book was for everybody. Now I'm doing the same type of book just for veterans and talking about benefits and everything else. I wrote my own podcasting book, which is about, because I do so much podcasting. People ask me, can you get a course on this? I want to learn how to podcast. So I'm like, okay, in order to do a course on podcasting, I should have a book on podcasting that I could break up into a course. And then I also did one. I was on a podcast for divorce people because of my book. And then a lady is like, can you send me your book? I'm thinking, this book has nothing really for your situation going on right now. So I took part of my book, redid it and everything. And I created a book that's how to handle real estate during a divorce. So those are, more niche to where it's not going to be as big as my other book, but it'll be exactly what they need. So the question is, at what point do you go from an ebook? You know what I mean? I always thought ebooks would give away for free stuff. And now I see they're all over Amazon. So I don't know what that means. So I'm confused. Help me out here, understand that process. Is an ebook just a smaller book? Is that all that is? Or is just electronic book? What's that mean? Years ago, you'd like download my free ebook, which was usually 10, 20 pages if you're lucky.
Yeah. I mean, like the definition is just electronic book, but that could mean a whole huge range of things. I think there's some people who like crank out a 10-page PDF and put it up there as a lead magnet and say, get my free ebook because it generates a perception of value, but you wouldn't list that on Amazon. No. On the other hand, there's people that write full quality, 30 to 50,000 word books, but just due to the budget constraints they have, only publish it as a digital book on Kindle, just because it's so much easier than going through, the process of like designing hardcover and paperback and doing the page layout. Like that is a higher level of investment to turn it into like a real physical book. So there's some people writing, I think quite solid books, publishing digital only, that are all over Amazon. If hearing just the context that you gave me there, like if you haven't published some of those on Amazon, I would, because I think Amazon is very underrated as a search engine. And if somebody is looking for a very specific kind of book, they're likely to go search it on Amazon. And if you're not listed there, Amazon is like Google, except the bar for having a entry in the search results isn't a web page. It's having written a book and having star ratings on that book and having, how recently was it purchased and how thorough are the reviews. So if you can write a really specific book that solves somebody's problems that they're likely to be searching for, I would post it there. And you're likely to get a lot of very high qualified people who then pick up the phone after having bought your book, read it, come to fully trust you and believe in your vision and your expertise and hire you for whatever that thing is that they need you to do.
And all right, so we're all into publishing books right now. We got way far ahead of what they say over right now. Let's back up ahead, and we'll come back to this in a minute. But it's important. You need to write a book. And you're so key about it because you're the CEO of Scribe Media now. You helped it come out of bankruptcy, and we didn't even get into that whole part of it. We jumped right in. I think that's an important thing because that backs up to what you're good at.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's why I was trying to key in on what are you good at, and I saw that when you guys reached out right after when you took it over, and how can we, what can we look at? You guys were our authors, and so we're looking, and you're re-looking at what we need as past authors, and I'm like, okay, I can see what he's trying to do. I can see this, and that's why I asked you with what you're good at, and then when you went from that, we just jumped ahead. But I want to kind of go back to that. And all right, so why Scribe Media?
Well, it's kind of interesting, the threads that have come together, right? So I had a background in operating in venture-backed startups and kind of being a like jack of all trades in that, really sort of a chief of staff kind of role in that environment. And at the same time, I was tweeting and blogging and writing my first book and that I was in the middle of publishing with Scribe also. So I come into this both as an author and as an operator. And I just happened to be, you could call it right place or wrong place in right time or wrong time. But like I was publishing a book with Scribe when they went through this incredible kind of bit of turbulence. The founders had sold the company to somebody who took it over. And really like the company just got off the rails over the course of about a year and a half, and ended up in quite a surprising kind of bankruptcy that took a lot of people by surprise. And I was one of the people who was caught up in that as an author. But I loved Scribe and I loved what it did for me. And I believed in what their vision for sort of the future of publishing. I'd had a great experience with the team. I loved everybody I worked with. And I thought it was just a shame of the situation that the company found itself in. So I started trying to make some phone calls, trying to see what I could do to kind of resolve the situation and get people unstuck, and ended up finding Enduring Ventures, who I'd worked with a little bit before in the past, and they worked with the bank in the bankruptcy and sort of spun up this new company to carry on the core IP of Scribe and hire over some of the team. And that was a whole messy sort of summer of 2023. And I thought, great, job done. Like I can go back to kind of writing books, which is really what I deeply love to do. And it's a very, I was surprised as anybody else to get a call from them after that said, hey, we think you should come be CEO of Scribe now that we kind of got it back on its feet, or are working towards that. And, I had to think long and hard about that, but it really brings back, it intertwines sort of my operating background and my author background in a way that's like really interesting and unique to me, and to be able to work with a whole really fascinating swath of people to develop their books, develop their book ideas, figure out how to help it impact their business, or just, achieve the ends that they want to see happen in the world as a result of, sharing their perspective, their wisdom, their beliefs in the form of a book. It's a really, really fun thing. And in helping the team and a bunch of authors do that transition, that was super fulfilling as well.
Thanks for coming back to here. But now what I'm getting at is I wanted to make sure people understood where your role is, how you got there. But I want to get back to the publishing and the whole side of books, because the reason when I wrote my first book, when I do anything, I do it to that nth degree. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be, otherwise I'm not doing it. Everything I create, everything I build, I put so much time into, and it's got to be the best there possibly can be. And I think that is from my veterans day as a vet and doing everything from the medical field and everything else. But so when I read my book, I'm like, I'm not going to put out what I've seen other people put out. Because I know one guy, he just constantly writes books about this stuff. And I look at what they put in. That's not a book. That's just garbage. And to each his own. But that's when I found you guys, and that was through Steve Sims at one of his events. I met Tucker, and then talked to Tucker, and then finally, went through the whole process. And I'm the type of person who hates to read. I'd rather listen. I hate to write. It's not my forte, but I love to talk, as everybody knows. That's why I do so many podcasts and lives and everything else. And I hope I do a good job at it. My goal is to make sure that I talk. I'm curious. My curiosity is from the sales environment, being so curious about things. I tell people all the time, what used to get me in trouble at tables, my wife would squeeze my leg to tell me to shut up, is what I get to do all day long. Right? Talk to people and ask questions, whether they want to talk about it or not. And I've had people say, you don't pull any punches. I'm like, just because someone says something doesn't mean we have to agree on it. We can talk about different sides. And I think we lost that for a 4-year period, being able to talk to each other with different opinions and be able to understand the other person, why they have their opinion. And your opinion doesn't mean you can still be friends and go get a beer afterwards. You don't have to have the same opinion to get along with somebody else. But back to my statement, I think it's very important, if you're going to do a book, you do it right. Yeah. It's very important that you have the right people help you with your cover, the right people help you with everything else, because it's you that you're putting out there, and you need that. And so what helped me so much with Scribe was the ghostwriters. And most people didn't understand what a ghostwriter is. Like, oh yeah, ghostwriter. All that means is it's my story. They just help put the words together for me.
Yeah. This is something that I think Scribe does relatively uniquely, because there is a whole world of ghostwriters, and by that term, they go off and write a whole book about what they think you want to say, and then some people just slap their name on the front of it and say, "Look, I wrote a book," and that is the opposite of what Scribe does, as you say. Like, we really build the book out of your words, your stories, your expertise. They are words that are coming out of your mouth, and our team is not just great writers, but also great interviewers. And so their mission and what they're trained to do is structure the book and structure the conversation in such a way that it brings out all of the stories and all the expertise and the knowledge that you have. Everybody I know who's written a book with Scribe, if you sit across the table from somebody who's like earnestly trying to learn from you and all the experiences you have, just like a customer, a client, or a prospective client, you can go for hours, 10 hours, sharing everything that's relevant, but you don't have that time to spend with every individual customer. So how do you scale that up? How do you scale trust and conversation? It's by creating something that can do the work for you. And if you write a great book and someone can buy it or get it as a gift and sit down and spend 5 or 6 quiet hours really getting to know you, like, why would they do business with anybody else? But to your point, it's got to be well designed. It's got to be professional. It's got to be clean and polished and organized, and can't be full of typos, and it's got to be well edited. And that's a hard thing. And you want professionals to do it. One of the lines we share a lot is like, half professional is unprofessional. And you see a lot of that in self-publishing.
And also, I mean, there was mistakes in my book, but that's okay, because we went through it so many different times. There was a word that was quality versus quantity, and everybody read it one way from the mortgage industry. And one person that had nothing to do with inequality was like, "Hey, by the way, your word's spelled wrong." But you couldn't check it with a spell check because it was right. It just was in the wrong context. And then one of my charts had a wrong number on it. And I mean, just a couple things. Luckily, I had a friend from high school who was a jerk, and then he found all my stuff and had to post it on Facebook, and I was like, "Thank you so much for that." And then we fixed it. Now it's my second edition or third edition, because of the fact that you're going to find typos, you're going to find things, even they scale, but it's not going to be major stuff. It's just going to be a little bit here or there, and that's what you want. You want eventually, because if you don't, you'll never put it out, because it's got to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect.
A surprising thing about typos is how difficult it actually is, like how tough it is for the human brain, even like professional proofreaders, to actually find every little thing because of how we interpret meaning. And so my book was the same. I had probably 100 people had read that book, and I read it myself 20 times before it got out there. And there's still maybe 4 or 5 typos or like mistakes, kind of like you're talking about. That's not a typo, but it's the wrong word. And as soon as 1,000 people read it, you start getting DMs about it, and you can fix them, and it's no big deal. But it is surprisingly common, even in, at any level of publishing, you'll see those.
Well, what's great is you don't have to throw all those books away because it's on-demand publishing.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
The print on demand is a huge unlock. I mean, it's one of the things that's changed in the last 10 years. It totally is upending, the publishing world.
Yeah, because I mean, if that way, it's fixed. Okay, next one's ordered. It's correct.
Yep.
And I just told everybody who had my first 100 copies that those are a special edition. Don't ever get rid. Because they're going to have those mistakes in it. Now the other ones won't. Yeah. But I think it's important. If you're going to write a book, you need to do it professionally. You need to have somebody else do it. Some people can just do it. Some people can just create a book. It's a good book, but it might not be the great book you want. And that's what you have to look at, because self-publishing by yourself, you could get it done very cheap, but you also, how important are things? It's like, do you pay for a real estate agent when you buy a house? Do you need a mortgage person to do the loan? You could do this stuff yourself and figure stuff out, but do you want to make that mistake that could cost you the most down the road? I think the biggest headache for me with the self-publishing was the fact that people don't leave reviews. They tell you how great it is, but they won't go up there and leave a review. And that's the hardest thing. So if there's a way to get that fixed, that's the one thing that needs to get help. I mean, because some people have 100 friends who'll download it for $1 and then make sure they go on and leave reviews. But then you have people who really like your book and they get in there and do a review. I'm the worst at leaving reviews. I mean, I think when people leave reviews for the work I do for them, it's amazing jobs. I can close a VA loan in 8 days, which is unheard of. And that guy wrote a review, but most people won't.
Yeah, it's a tough thing culturally. I think the answer is just repetitions and requests. Like we try to coach all our authors, everybody that's had a hand on the book all along, your kind of first close rung of friends and colleagues and customers. Like, you can't be shy about asking, I'm publishing this book. I've been working on it for a year and a half. This is a really big deal for me. Please, like, the week of, I need you to do this, 3-minute favor of leaving me a review. And as you think about your Amazon page as like a product landing page,
Right.
the only thing really that is social proof on that page is the review count. So you gotta try to jump up and down on that lever, which is easier said than done. It's a little uncomfortable for some people, but I think there's value in doing it.
Well, I mean, I hounded everybody, and I don't mean that wrong. And it's still, I have hard landing reviews on it. And I have, from the beginning, I had the person who was reading my stuff at Scribe, the copywriter.
Mm-hmm.
She used it to go buy a house. Well, she was,
amazing.
Yeah, doing the copyright. She's like, just want to let you know, your book helped me, blah, blah, blah. Like, can you leave me a review then?
I'll follow up on that.
That's all right. It's been a while. It's been out since 2 years ago, February.
It's never too late to leave a review.
No, and I had somebody reach out, and this is off topic, and it was they'll get reviews for you. And I was like, let me check into this. Just so that the problem is they're all from India. Okay, that's what we want. And they're like, well, most people don't go past the first 10 reviews anyway. But if they do, how much junk are you going to get from that?
Yeah,
that's like people who used to get that stuff for their social media posts and everything else, and the next they know, it's like, I have so many, but they're not from here.
Yeah,
we know you bought those. Don't buy it. Don't buy reviews. Just help. So what I'm getting at is maybe that's one more thing because a lot of authors we try, but maybe there's a way that we can, because there's no list of people who bought your book. Right. Yeah. It's too bad there was a list that you could hit up. Hey, I saw you bought my book. Can you leave me a review, please?
Well, Amazon is a huge pain with this. Like, they're so greedy with the information. And so a lot of authors that I see, especially in self-publishing, they do as much as they can to sell direct to the audience. So they drive people to their website first. They've got an order page on their own site, which is a little bit more work to kind of tie that all together. But you got Ingram Spark, and sometimes you can sort of sidestep Amazon, collect that customer information yourself, and then you can actually follow up more often with requests, or kind of bring them a little deeper into your world in ways that you might not be able to on Amazon. Amazon makes things extremely convenient for authors, and I'm super grateful for that. But they also have some real limitations that it's worth, just experimenting with some of those other channels to see if you can't get some advantage out of that.
I want to back up what you just said about Ingram's more. How do you use them? The Spark?
Ingram Spark. Yeah.
Sorry, we're doing this on Monday after a long week. Sorry, I apologize. I normally do these on Wednesdays for a reason in the afternoon. I'm more awake than normal.
This is the tongue warm-ups. We should have done more of the news anchor. Unique New York.
I know. I was only on for a half hour this morning. Normally by now I've had 5 hours of talk, and so I'm also on the other side. But anyway, how did that? Because I've seen that too. But there's Amazon. I thought they were connected. Those aren't the same.
They are connected. So Ingram is kind of the back end that a lot of the bookstores use, and a lot of the B2B fulfillment comes from. And if you go print a big order, you're going to get a better deal from Ingram Spark, certainly, than from Amazon. But Ingram now has a sort of direct consumer facing way to order books directly from them. So a lot of authors are putting up on their website essentially the Ingram storefront, and that Ingram storefront will let you capture the email and the shipping address, and you'll actually see that information, and you can tie it into your email service provider, or send a drip campaign, or whatever that is, in a way that you won't with Amazon. You'll capture a little bit bigger margin than sending people to Amazon, but there's a little more that you have to worry about on the setup side.
I wish I would have known that, because I have a page on my website, but it doesn't. It just sends them to Amazon.
Okay,
I definitely need to make that change.
That's what I'm here for.
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
No, and this is all the stuff, what happened after everything happened, right? Because my person who was there, who helped me so much, is no longer there. And so you don't have that same thing. So I'm glad that it's back, but it's also, these are things that happen, because it came out in 22, February 22, 23, 24. Yeah. Or was it 23?
23.
22. Was it 23? Okay.
Yeah, I checked.
Okay, thank you. So that was right as you were taking it back over, right?
That
There you
was just
go.
before the kind of collapse. So
Yeah,
that was like
yeah.
February, that the transition happened sort of, or the summer of 23.
Right. So I mean, that was right. That's what I'm saying. So as it comes
Yep.
out, and then everybody's help, and then it's like, where is
Yep.
everybody?
Well,
Yeah.
Ingram didn't even have that until I think either late 23 or early 24. So that is still sort of early innings in some of these transitions.
I wasn't talking about. I was just talking in general, the
Mhm.
support that could have been there that wasn't there as
Yep.
much because unfortunately what happened, and there's so many things going on at that time with
Yeah.
everything that was going on because it was right after the pandemic came to an end and everything that came, people stopped having money, people stopped having this. They you saw it in the mastermind world have all of a sudden these huge events that had thousands of people now have 100 people if they're lucky. And it was a drastic change when people ran out of money. They still don't have money, but it's at least it's starting to come back the other way, the other side. It's starting to come there.
Yeah, and that's that exact kind of support that you're talking about. Like that's why I fought so hard to get Scribe revived in the first place. Is like I had such a good experience with them as an author, and I wanted to take care of as many authors as you could. There's no perfect solutions in a situation like
Of
that,
course.
but I love the product and I love the service, and I wanted to keep using it as an author, and I wanted to not have this thing that I think was a pioneer. I mean, 10 years ago, they saw this vision and like planted a flag for something that is really the opposite of the traditional publishing model, and saw where publishing is going. We've seen sort of the whole industry move closer and closer to this kind of model over the last 10 years. And I thought it would be just a real shame if that collapsed entirely. And so I'm quite proud of the whole team for kind of persevering through that, and super, super grateful to authors like you've been so supportive and helping us get back on our feet. And I feel like the wind's really at our backs now, and we got an exciting future ahead.
Good. I just like saying that the people help me write my books is same people who did David Goggins' book.
Yeah.
Because I still trying to get him on my Helping the Brave podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an unbelievable
He's amazing.
success story. I mean, I think the highest selling self-published book maybe of all time. And one of the best-selling memoirs of all time. And he's a great example of just the dedication. I mean, he's a machine, obviously, but like
Right.
the dedication to one mission, one project, one very small set of products for a really long time with massive intensity. And I think, very different styles, but like James Clear is an example of the same thing. One product, one focus, one message, just pound and pound and pound and pound away at that over years, and you see the results.
Right. Well, I think just the difference between publishing and self-publishing. The biggest thing I like about the fact that you own your book, you own your stuff. When you go through traditional publishing, people don't realize they own it. You can't talk about it. You can't create courses off of it. You can't do anything. It's not your words anymore. It's their words. It's like on Seinfeld where Kramer sold his story about his. And he's trying to talk about, you can't talk about that, but it's mine. Well, just understand that's exactly what happens in publishing. See, my wife would have never got that joke because she hates.
No, I'm fluent in Seinfeld. I appreciate the reference.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's important to know that, and I think people don't realize that because a lot of people will do their first book and for publishing realm and then go, oh my God. And then they want to self-publish after that. So they own their words that they create and they put out there. You don't get that big check in the beginning, but you get check over time.
Yeah. Paul Graham's got a great line of about prestige. And he's like, things are prestigious when they actually suck. And so I think that about kind of traditional publishing. I think it's right for some people. And I know people have had good outcomes, but there's a whole long list of people who are kind of stuck in this like purgatory of they got dangled in advance. They took the advance, they sold the book. They didn't sell a ton of copies. So they're not getting the support that they need, and they're not a focus inside the publisher. And that book could do a lot for them if they had the flexibility to really like use it. And if they were making, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 per book, and they had the freedom to market it how they wanted to, they could really get a lot out of it. But they don't. The publisher controls it, and they only make $1 or so per book, and just really hard to reinvest when most of the money is going somewhere else. It's really an onerous thing, and the advance feels good when it's offered to you, but there's a big long string attached to that. And for most authors, especially people with audiences or businesses attached, I think, increasingly self-publishing, or at least retaining your control, is a no-brainer.
Well, I had Matthew Lesko on the show. Do you know who he is?
That name sounds extremely familiar.
He did the government grants. He'd stand on the stairs on commercials, and he's like, "You can get this for free through the government." I don't know if you
the question mark suit guy.
Yeah. And he talked about how back in the 80s and 90s, and it's like, okay, well, the publisher took 50 cents, and then so-and-so took 45 cents. You got a nickel. And so what I would do is I'd have these 800 numbers and sell this up. And so he talked about how he had to deal with it. And that's the way it is. So you got to be careful how you do it. Do you want to own your stuff? How do you want to build it? Just look at each avenue and see what's best for you. But if you want to build, and again, why are you writing your book? Why are you doing it? Are you writing it to build your business? Are you building something else? Are you trying to make courses off of it? What are you trying to do? There's many different reasons for writing a book. You just got to figure that out.
Yeah. And whatever your goals are, I think that's the perfectly made point. And, I always ask every author, like, what is your ultimate outcome? What is the life outcome that you're trying to drive? And almost whatever it is, you need the flexibility to pursue that. If it's just getting this book into as many hands as possible, great. Well, let's post it for free online. Let's post it on Kindle Unlimited. Let's invest in reach everywhere we possibly can and just get your message out there. If your goal is to drive financial results in a business, well, great. Let's find exactly the people who are most likely to be your customer, and let's engineer really high trust, high signal ways to get this book in their hands. If your goal is maximize your royalties, your direct income from the book, well, great. Let's engineer like some really, really thoughtful ad spend and word of mouth and try to market the book itself in as efficient of a manner as possible. But if you self-publish, then you can control the rate of reinvestment. You can actually do all of that math in-house yourself. When you give that over to a publisher, their goal, they make very different amounts on the different formats, and you don't necessarily have visibility into that or control over how you reinvest or what versions of your book get published at different times. The pricing itself, like, it is a very, and there's not a lot of one-way doors in the world. Like, signing that copyright away to a traditional publisher is essentially a one-way door. And the people that I know have come back through paid more than they got paid to go through the door in the first place in legal fees or penalties or anything like that. It's a really, it's a heavy decision, and that option is always available to you. I have a lot of friends who've self-published books that become successful, and then they get offers from traditional publishers. So if you want to go that route, you can still kind of, get yourself through the first few levels and then control your terms and make informed decisions on what you want to do. But once you go through that, it's hard to come back out.
So I think you're the right person for the ship, just from the way you talk and everything else. Cause I think you'd see things differently than the past people who've been running the ship. And I think it's important to have the right person at the ship. And I think you're it.
Thank you. That's very kind. I think time will tell, right? I think it's still, I'm only a year and a half into this. And I think the true test is, how's the company doing in 10 years?
I know, but you're talking about stuff that people didn't talk about before. Why are you doing it from the standpoint for the top down kind of thing? You come in at a different point. You come in with a different background. You come in with a different thing. And that's important to have in the right person. So I understand why they tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, would you do this for us? Because we think that you'd be the right person. I can see the fit. We see things that on other people that they don't see in themselves sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I do think it is, I think publishing is an industry where, they've been doing things largely the same way for 100, 150 years. And it's just really tough to innovate from within that culture. And so I think even if, what we do is show a different path and provide a little pressure on them to do things a little more flexibly or give some more control back to authors, I think a lot has changed in the environment that people are writing and publishing books into. Social media now is the source of most of the business, not, centralized book reviews or bestseller lists. And print on demand, as you mentioned, changes a huge amount of things. And most people are buying books online, not from bookstores directly anymore. As much as I love bookstores, like that's, sort of in the math. With those changes, of course, publishing, has to change, and the models have to change, and who the successful authors are is going to change, and their playbooks are going to change. We're seeing, if you go through all the recent bestsellers, I think you'll see a lot of people that have very systematically built their audience, tested their message, written their book based on what they're seeing in the feedback loop between what's working online, and then continued that. Like, we said James Clear, David Goggins, Morgan Housel, Shane Parrish. These people are all sort of running that playbook. Alex Hormozy, like whoever you're following. There's a lot of people running a very different kind of playbook in the publishing world that seems to be working. And I think that's just going to become more and more obvious over time.
Thanks for being on the show today. Anything else you want to add before we go? Because we've been, usually it's 30 minutes. We're in almost 45 minutes. Yeah, I know, but we had a great conversation. It's normally I try to keep it right around there, but we were going pretty deep, and I thought there was a lot of information we need to get out here. Plus, I didn't say we're going to go for an hour for you, so I didn't want to keep you longer than you need. So I just want to make sure we covered everything. I think we covered a lot, and I think it's important to know how do people find out if Scribe Media is right for them. How do they get a hold of it? What's the best way to do that now?
I mean, check out the website, scribemedia.com. If you want to chat with us, there's a big green or a big old button there called schedule a consult. But you reach out to us anytime. We're happy to chat through, your idea, your concept for your book. You don't have to have everything figured out. That's our job to kind of help you work through. But if you have a vague sense, even that a book might be, something that you want to do or good for your business or, good for the world, like come talk to us about it. And we'd be happy to work with you or point you in the right direction if we think you're one of the people that maybe traditional publishing is right for, or that should truly self-publish or something like that. We just have a lot of fun kind of helping people through this maze.
So basically what I'm hearing is you're going to tell them what's best for them, not what's best for you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's our approach.
Isn't that how it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
I do what's best for my clients, not what's best for me, because then when I do what's best for my clients, it's what's best for me.
Well, it's a long-term partnership too. I mean, we work with a lot of people for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and if there's no sense in trying to do some high-pressure, fancy footwork and talk you into something that's very obviously going to seem wrong to you in a month or 3 months or 6 months. So we do a lot of work up front to find that alignment and be sure that, this is a commitment that you want to make and something that you want to invest your time and effort into too. Because otherwise we can't possibly set you up for success. And that's our whole goal.
Right. And it's an investment. It's you have to understand that you're investing in your book. You're building, the people that you guys hire and the people they do have really good backgrounds and they know what they're doing. And so that's when you do anything good, it's not cheap sometimes.
Yeah, this is, there
are expensive. There we go. That's better.
There are fast, cheap ways to get a book out in the world. And like, that is not, Scribe's focus is on like quality and professionalism and excellence and a fantastic experience throughout. So I think it's a great place to kind of start the conversations and get oriented to, and, find out if we're the right fit for you.
I totally agree. Eric, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And if we're going extra innings.
It was my pleasure. Enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much.